It's lit! Everybody, welcome to episode 1 of the Simp Station podcast. Or Simp Station Internet Football podcast. We are going to replace my shitty write-ups with a banging podcast. Absolute fire. Today, we're going to try and keep them short, so no one, because, I know that Spencer has the attention span of a peanut's anus.
A gerbil.
And of a gerbil. That works a lot better. So today it's probably going to be a little longer, because we're going to do a power rankings of all 12 teams post-draft. Yay! And then every week we're just going to go through the matchups, how they went, any surprises, look at the standings, look at the upcoming week, so on and so forth. But today we're going to go through the power rankings. Wyatt and I both did rankings, and then we aggregated them. And I have listed both of our rankings, as well as the Yahoo grade, because that matters.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure! We're going to start from the bottom, because it's kind of...
First is the worst.
All right, well, you ready? How hyped are you?
I'm hyped. Let's get it going. I'm ready to shit on some hoes.
Well, number 12, it's going to be Steele.
Yeah.
I had Steele at 12, Wyatt had Steele at 12, and Yahoo gave Steele a C+. What'd you think about Steele's team?
I mean, with that first round pick, Nick Chubb, it was doomed from the beginning, let's be honest. And then, he capped it off picking 2 kickers. Picked Justin Tucker in the 9th round or something like that. It was pretty yikes for our boy Steele. He did get Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews stack, which is pretty good. But that's the lone bright spot on this roster.
Yeah, the stack is definitely the most positive thing, but the running backs are so bad. So bad.
When your RB2 is Antonio Gibson.
His RB2 was listed as a 4th stringer 2 weeks ago. All 3 of his top 3 running backs are expected to share carries. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson are going to be splitting. Gibson, and especially when Brian Robinson comes back, plus Chubb and Hunt until maybe they trade Hunt and he has a late season pop off. But yeah, outside of the stack, it is rough. Not to mention his 2 starting wide receivers are both number 2s.
Yeah, it's not looking good. Maybe he'll catch lightning in a bottle with another Falcons running back in the rookie Tyler Algier, like how he did last year with Cordarrelle Patterson, but
That's true.
I doubt it.
I think one, he's got Jamal Williams on Detroit, who DeAndre Swift has missed some games, and Jamal Williams has looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Plus, DK Metcalf, we're expecting him to be kind of bad, but it could be a steal if they end up actually throwing the ball a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like this roster is horrible. It's just a lot of things have to switch. It's just the worst. All right. Anything else you want to say about Steele's team before we move on?
No, I think we covered it. Let's move on. Number 11.
Number 11, another unanimous pick. It's Sharksy's team. I had her at 11. Wyatt had her at 11, and Yahoo gave her a C+ as well. I expected Sharksy to be the worst team. My initial reaction on the draft board, she was my least favorite by far.
And then I was doing the rankings, and I saw Steele's, and I was like, there's no way this is better than Sharksy.
Yeah, I think she, hands down, has the worst set of running backs in the entire league.
Yeah.
In terms of roster down,
yeah.
And
she, her top 2 running backs are from the same, wide receivers are from the same team. Albeit it's Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson, but you can't have both of them score at the same time, so it's a weird situation.
Yeah, especially with Matt Stafford having this injury throughout training camp with his elbow.
Yeah.
It just freaks me out. It's I guess we're expecting them to get 25. I guess Sharks is expecting them to combine for 25 catches a game or something. And that just, I don't know.
Yeah, the Stafford injury is partly why I had Justin Jefferson higher than Kupp in my pre-draft rankings.
I did as well. I had Justin Jefferson as the 4 or 5 in the entire draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think And, like, there's just small things, too. Like, I think she picked Trey Lance in the 10th round, despite taking Josh Allen super early. And it's like, that's just such...
You just don't need that.
Yeah, presumably you're, like, taking Josh Allen to start every game except for his bye week, right? And, yeah, it's a nice backup if he gets hurt, but you're just losing so much value. And I think she may have taken a defense somewhat early. I don't remember, but it was a rough draft. I think she does have a higher ceiling than Steele's team.
Yeah, probably higher ceiling, lower floor. And, I mean, her wide receiver depth is pretty bad. Like, Amari Cooper, Mecole Hardman, and Michael Gallup. It's pretty bad. But if she can get the Rams... Like, if Rams can score 40 points a game through the air, then she'll be chilling.
Yeah, I do think Gallup could be good as late season if she can get to late season. Cause, if she starts 0-5, having that stash is not gonna do a whole lot. But I think Cordero Patterson, because of the PPR increase, he was already good last year in every league, and I think he could seriously pop off potentially.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty much all I have.
Yep, that's all I got. Let's go number 10.
Number 10. Unanimous ranking. We both gave Biz a 10, and Yahoo gave Biz a C. What do you think about Biz's roster?
When I was looking at it, I originally had her, like, middle of the pack, and then I ended up moving her down just because her running backs are not it. I mean, she's got her RB2 is Breece Hall, who could be good. He's a rookie coming in, pretty highly touted prospect, but I don't know if I'm very high on him. And Aaron Jones is going to split time. You know that very well from last season. And then, I mean, her backups are J.K. Dobbins coming off the ACL. You don't know how he's going to come out, and James Robinson off the Achilles. So,
I mean, when I looked at this, I just saw a really low floor. Obviously, she has T. Higgins as a wide receiver, too. Like, he's probably the best wide receiver, too, in the NFL. Him and Mike Williams, maybe. But it's still no wide receiver, too. Aaron Jones splitting time. Breece Hall has looked like shit in the preseason. And then doubling up on San Francisco pass catchers when they have a unproven, we'll call him, quarterback. And Dak Prescott's lost a lot of weapons.
Kittle gets injured every season, so...
Yeah. I mean, the thing about... I think... Because at first when I saw this, I just thought it had a low ceiling. And then I kind of looked again, and it was like... I could see this team bottoming out into like a 2-11, 3-10 kind of season. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like best case scenario, she's like middle of the pack, squeaks into the playoffs. Worst case scenario, she's dead last.
Yeah. She has enough good players where I think she could do like what I did last year, where you just kind of ignore quarterback's mediocre, but your skill positions are so good. But that's just, that's assuming a lot of a lot of things have to go her way.
Yeah.
All right. So this is where the rankings get a little spicy. We have no more consensus picks throughout the entire draft. None.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have a completely different top 9.
Spice.
And at number 9, with an average ranking of 7.5. Oh wait, I can't do math. It's an average ranking of 8.
Bruh.
He is Agmills. I put Agmills at 7. You put him at 9, and Yahoo gave him a B. Talk a little bit about what you hated clearly about this draft.
Well, I mean, his RB2 is David Montgomery, who I had last year, and he's solid, but he's just not going to give you really any boom, especially on a bad Chicago offense with a bottom 3 O-line in the league. And then he got Devin Singletary, the pick that got made fun of like the whole night in the 6th round or 5th round or whatever it was. And then what we talked about earlier, Matt Stafford, is he going to be 100% throughout the season? If he is, he could... Agmills could shoot up the rankings a little bit because he does have a good top running back in Austin Eckler, and he's got Debo and Keenan Allen, so he's got some potential, but there's a lot of risk.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down arguably the first 2 picks in the entire draft between Eckler and Debo Samuel. I had Eckler as my number 2 player in the entire draft. I thought he had a nice pick at 4. And then Debo's so integral to that team that even if Trey Lance sucks, he's
going to get his points.
Yeah. But it was that middle section where he really started to fall off. Like, Dawson Knox actually gets... Dawson Knox, when I looked at the stats, was better than I thought he was. I know we were looking at it last night. He actually gets, like, a solid amount of targets. Nothing crazy. But, yeah, I mean, you talked about Montgomery and Singletary. And the rest of his bench kind of sucks. Bourne is wide receiver 3-4 now on that team because with Aguilar coming back, they traded for Devontae Parker. Yeah, and so it's
who
like
went undrafted, by the way.
Yeah, the Kendrick Moore or Bourne pick was pretty questionable. I mean, Baker is Baker.
Mike Gesicki is going to be blocking. The Dolphins literally want to trade him because he doesn't want to be there because he's going to be blocking.
And I think Treylon Burks is a pretty interesting pick because like he actually could be. I mean, he's a rookie wide receiver, so we never know. And Tannehill has not looked that good the last couple of seasons.
Yeah,
but he could pop off. I don't see I put him at 7 because I think his floor is pretty high. Like I feel like him winning less than 5 games would be pretty surprising. But I don't really see this winning the championship without some last year level luck.
Yeah. Gotta get some waiver wire action.
All right. Well, we have 2 teams, assuming I got to double check all my math now since apparently I'm
can't do math.
Dumb. Yeah. All right, we had 2 teams
Bulls education.
At 7. Big old brain. And we'll start with Banegulwud. You had Banegulwud at 6. I had Banegulwud at 8. And Yahoo gave him a C. What did you like about it?
I like Kyler Murray. He's going to be one of the top fantasy quarterbacks in the league for sure. I was low on Najee earlier in the off season, and then as I watched preseason and saw how Pittsburgh's offense is going to operate, got a little higher on him. And then I do like the Marquise Brown stack, especially in the first 6 weeks with DeAndre out. So that should help him get off to a strong start. But other than that, I mean, he did get a lot of young receivers as his depth receivers that can bolster his room, try to give him some pop when his starters are on bye weeks or get injured or something like that. So
yeah, I think this team, it has top end talent. Where I mean, he has like his starting room is 2 wide receiver 1s, 3 running back 1s, a tight end on a team with no help. The reason I rated it so lowly, one, I think I'm a little lower on Najee than you are. That offensive line is so bad, and the quarterbacks. I mean, Pickett's looked okay, but they just announced today that he's not even starting.
Yeah, it's too busy. We'll see how long that lasts, though.
Yeah, and then Hollywood Brown, I just think's bad. High key. I know, like the whole thing is like, oh, he's back with his college quarterback and all that, and maybe the stack really helps Alex, but I just don't think he's very good, and I really just devalue bad players.
That's generally a good strategy.
Well, there are bad players that get good fantasy points, you know?
Yeah.
But I really like his bench. I mean, he has 2 wide receiver 1s for their team on the bench with Bateman and Kirk, and then 2 rookies with pretty decent potential in Olave and Pickens. But his running back depth is dreadful.
Yeah, it is. He picked Gus Edwards, who isn't even going to be healthy to start the season.
And as a running back 3.
Yeah, even when he comes back, he's not going to be the starter in like any scenario.
And they just signed Kenyon Drake, so it's like I don't see how Gus Edwards goes on the field. He doesn't have a backup tight end either. Komet is kind of risky. Like, yeah, we think he's going to get he'll probably get a lot of targets, but we don't know how good that team's ever going to be. But I mean, he got Dameon Pierce, who's basically my favorite player in the entire draft in terms of value.
Yeah,
obviously Florida bias, but
I mean, he definitely has the potential, especially with becoming the running back 1, and that's a run first team. So,
I think the only decent running back they even have besides him is Rex Burkhead, who is not good.
Yeah. And they cut Marlon Mack, so it's definitely his backfield, but we'll see how he translates.
All right. I think it's more fun. So the next pick, our other number 7, our other tied for 7th team, is one of the biggest splits between us two in the entire draft. And that is Beans. I had Beans ranked number 9. You had Beans ranked number 5.
I want to hear your thoughts first on this one.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I think she has, like, I think her running back room is pretty good to start. Like, that's, I don't know why I can't find her team name on here, but, oh, there we go. Yeah, I mean, Mixon and Cam Akers, like, assuming Cam Akers stays healthy, that's a really good room. And I think, I think having McLaurin as a number 3 wide receiver, I think, if I remember correctly, she got him at a really good value. Yeah, okay. I think, but I do have questions with having Jared Jeudy and Jalen Waddle as 2 of your primary receivers. I think this team just has a really low floor because, like, I think there's a very likely scenario where Cam Akers gets injured again because he does almost every year. McLaurin plays with Carson Wentz, who is like a top 10 quarterback for 10% of the season and a bottom 10 quarterback for the rest of it.
He did support Pittman last year, though, so that's
true.
Should be okay.
I think McLaurin's going to be fine, but Jalen Waddle, we don't know really how the target share is going to go in Miami with Tyreek Hill.
That's
Jared Jeudy, we don't know we don't even know who Russell Wilson's going to favor that much. I think Cortland Sutton fits a little more that DK Metcalf role from Seattle. So I just think Cortland Sutton has a way higher ceiling than Jeudy. And then, I mean, yes, I see there. I think there's a likely scenario, not likely, but somewhat likely, where all those starters underperform, and her bench is pretty terrible.
Yeah. Going back to the 2 wide receivers on the Broncos, I heard a stat that Russell Wilson in all of his years in Seattle supported two top 15 wide receivers in fantasy, like 6 out of the 10 seasons he was there. Okay. And the last few times was DK and Lockett, and those 2 are very, very similar to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. So I think they can both coexist and do well, but it's just an unknown, obviously. So we'll have to see how that pans out. And yeah, I mean, I think Russell Wilson's going to be really good. I think the Broncos are going to be really good. But it's definitely one of the more hard to predict rosters in the league.
Yeah, like, I think if everything goes right, this is a top 4 team, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
If everything goes wrong, I think this is a bottom 3 team. Because I think I'm a little lower on Russell Wilson as well, just because I think he's just getting older, and that does scare me, even though we're kind of... I don't know, data doesn't even support that all that much anymore, but it just freaks me out a little bit.
He's finally unleashed from Pete Carroll, though.
Unleashed with Nathaniel Hackett. Oh, boy, oh, boy.
Former Jaguars offensive coordinator.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and I think the Chris Evans pick was the worst draft pick in the entire league, besides maybe Steele taking a second kicker. I think those 2 plus the Gus Edwards pick by Banegulwud were the 3...
She did get Brian Robinson really late and can stash him in IR to see how that pans out, if he can come back from his incident. But we'll see how that plays out. And she does have Alexander Madison, who could turn out to be some interesting trade bait for Reeves whenever Dalvin Cook inevitably gets injured. But.
Yeah, she definitely. I mean, it definitely could. We'll just have to see. The next team on the list is Dalton and Bway. They are ranked aggregate 6.5. You had them... Oh, God.
7.
You had them at a 7. I had them at 6. Yahoo gave their grade a C. What did you think? We're both pretty similar on this, I think, but give me your initial thoughts.
My initial gut reaction when seeing this team is... huge running back injury risk, just because Derrick Henry broke his foot last year, so you don't know how he's going to recover from that. Like, Elijah Mitchell gets injured a lot, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire is their 3rd running back. He disappointed really, really badly last year, but could
every
come
year
back.
he's been in the league pretty much.
Yeah. And then Raheem Mostert, another running back that gets injured every year. So the running backs on this team is what scares me. And then obviously tight end, they got Kyle Pitts. I think he has the potential to be tight end 1. So that's definitely a bright spot. They did get Adam Thielen as a depth wide receiver, which I really like because I think the Vikings will have a very good offense this year. And then CeeDee Lamb will get a lot of targets because he's the only receiver on that team. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for the positives, I think this starting lineup is stacked.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just between, high target share, players that are heavily involved in their offense. I mean, Michael Thomas would be like the only question mark. I mean, the Jags defense, which I know that was a pick. Like, it's a defense. Who gives a shit?
It's not going to be on their roster.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, I think Michael Thomas is really the only question mark. But that's, I mean, and I think the only reason I'm hesitant on this team is I think this bench is bad.
Yeah.
This is a brutally, I mean, Mark Ingram doesn't play that much. Sammy Watkins has never been good since, like, 2015.
The only way Mark Ingram is going to play is if Kamara gets suspended, and it's not looking like that's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And you've already mentioned Mostert gets injured. They have 3 running backs that they like there between Gaskins, Mostert, and Edmonds. It's like, who even knows how the carries are going to work?
Yeah.
Claypool, I don't know about Claypool, really, because, like,
I'm so low on Claypool just because of how not good the Steelers' offense is going to be, I think. And he's basically becoming the 3rd wide receiver on that team behind Deontay Johnson and rookie George Pickens, who did really, really well in preseason. So I didn't really like that pick at all.
Yeah, you can kind of tell just because they drafted Pickens in the 2nd round or late 1st, whatever it was, and they just gave Deontay Johnson an extension. It's like, well, that kind of leaves Claypool as the odd man out. I do think he has a somewhat high potential to get traded. I don't know if that's a rumor or anything, but just with his role in the offense and how good he has been, I think if he does get traded, I think I'm going to think this way about another player on a much higher ranked team later. But but yeah, I mean, I think this bench is really bad. Yeah. But if he can stay healthy with a lot of the injury risks Dalton's team has, and if Aaron Rodgers can just be solid, which, I mean, he always is like the back-to-back MVP. I don't think he's finished lower than, like, I don't think he's finished lower than, like,
Adams anymore, but he should be fine, I think.
Yeah. I don't think he's finished lower in points per game for quarterbacks than, like, 12th in years.
Yeah.
So, and he got him so late in the draft, it's probably a solid pick. So we'll see. I mean, I also could see, like, by week 3, we think Dalton's team is the worst in the league because Derrick Henry's foot is still fucked up, and
Elijah Mitchell's out.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell has his 8th injury in 8 NFL games.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire still sucks.
Yeah. So this team definitely has, like, a super low floor, but I think Dalton will be able to get some wins at the beginning while they're still healthy, at least.
Yeah.
Let's see. After Dalton, ranked at 6, and I believe we have. Yeah, this is the other really different player we have, is Reeves. You have Reeves at 8, and I have Reeves at 4. So tell me, what did you not like about Reeves' team? Because I'm curious.
Well, I mean, it's similar to Dalton and Bway in that Dalvin Cook, I mean, he's going to get injured, probably going to miss 5 or 6 games just because he does every season. And then his RB2 is A.J. Dillon, who is going to split time with Aaron Jones, just how you hated having Aaron Jones last season. I'm sure it won't be super satisfying to have A.J. Dillon, who's only on the field half the time. I do really, really like his wide receivers, and Stephon Diggs and DJ Moore and Amon-Ra and stashing DeAndre Hopkins. But then our running back depth is not great with Miles Sanders, who doesn't know what a touchdown is, and Ken Walker, who's injured coming into the year. So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously not terrible. I think pretty middle of the pack, and I do think one of my hot takes of the season is that I think Justin Herbert is the odds favorite to win MVP, and the Chargers are going to be the best team in the league.
That's a pretty good sign, then.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I see Reeves. The running backs are definitely a question, because his running back depth is not very good. But because he has 4 receivers that by week 7, when Hopkins comes back, will be top tier, I see this as a pretty high quality trade team. Where he'll probably be fishing. My guess would be St. Brown around. I think St. Brown
or DJ Moore.
Or DJ Moore. Yeah, I think they're pretty similar. Honestly, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think. I mean, maybe he can use that to get some running back depth. That's definitely the biggest question. But I think. Yeah, I mean, if Dalvin Cook could stay healthy, I think this team is loaded.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the starting
even
lineup.
If AJ Dillon's,
The starting lineup is great. I mean, I don't know about doubling up on the Lions' offense because that's not that great of an offense with T.J. Hawkinson and Amon-Ra, and then his backup being Higbee. So the tight end is a little questionable, but other than that, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, they actually do throw a lot on the Lions. Surprisingly, last year they kind of just chucked the ball around, which is weird because they have 2 pretty solid. The team has a lot of talent, and they have one of the best offensive lines. So it's, I think,
they target the
Hawkinson
running back a lot
risk.
too.
Yeah, Hawkinson's another injury risk too, because I don't know if he's ever played more than like 12 games in a season.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of scary, just especially because he has Higbee in the back, who doesn't really get targets.
No.
But yeah, I mean, if Hawkinson can stay healthy, he's pretty crazy. I think we were looking yesterday. I think he had the same number of targets as Dawson Knox in like 5 or 6 less games. I mean, it's pretty. I think he's got some high end. But yeah, between Herbert, Diggs, DJ Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I love so many. Plus stashing Hopkins, I just love so many players on this team.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there's a high end. I do see a pretty decent scenario where he bottoms out. I also think the bench. Yeah, I mean we kind of talked about the bench isn't that good. Kadarius Toney sucks. Herbert sucks. Herbert's not that bad,
but he's not going to play unless Montgomery's injured.
Yeah, and that offensive line sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know about Kenneth Walker. The Seahawks suck. Miles Sanders. Yeah, he's allergic to touchdowns.
Yep.
And I think that team could end up trading for Kareem Hunt.
That would be
by midseason.
Another thing I forgot to mention about Beans' team is there were rumors that Alexander Madison could get traded, and that would be a good spot for him too.
Oh yeah, I think both those teams could honestly pop off if the Eagles get a running back or start one of their running backs. All right, so that was Reeves' team. Now we're getting into the upper echelon. At number 4, we have Mr. Alec Wyatt.
Wait, number 4?
Wyatt
we're at 5.
Oh, we are at 5, sorry. Yeah, your average ranking is 4.5. I ranked you at 4, God, I can't read. I ranked you at 5, you ranked yourself at 4. And Yahoo gave you a C+. All
right,
give me some insight into your draft, because I have some thoughts.
Well, I do think that Jalen Hurts is going to be one of the top-end quarterbacks. Same reason I think that Kyler Murray will be a top-end quarterback, just because the rushing of those quarterbacks gives them such a low floor in fantasy. All he needs to do is step his passing game up a little bit with AJ, especially with the addition of AJ Brown coming in. I think he can definitely be a top-end quarterback. And then my first-round pick, DeAndre Swift. We were just talking about the Lions. They target the running back a lot. He's a very great pass-catching running back. And then Travis Etienne, I'm still a little scared about that pick just because of how much the Jags have been talking about James Robinson coming back. If he wasn't coming back so soon, I would be a lot more confident in it. So I'm a little not great on my running backs with Rashad Penny and then James Cook. But I do like my receivers a lot in Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman, Hunter Renfrow. I think Valdez-Scantling could be a good option for Mahomes. And then maybe Julio Jones has a resurgence with the GOAT, but we'll see.
So when I initially did my rankings, I had you at 3. because I think your top end is pretty insane. You just kind of talked about it. Then I did a little doing some look-sees, and you have 6 players who missed at least 5 games last season.
Damn.
ETN, I think, Rashad Penny maybe. I don't actually know. I wrote
no, he did.
Down, but okay.
He did.
Penny, Ingram, Swift, Julio Jones, and Valdez-Scantling. I think. Plus a running quarterback, which, it's always an injury risk with those guys.
I mean, he missed a couple games last year.
Yeah. That kind of freaks me out. I think I've noticed I generally like to draft players that play. I mean,
Says the guy who picks CMC.
Yeah, like, fuck off. Okay. But I think your team, the reason I kind of knocked you down was just because, like, Ingram's probably going to get hurt because that's what he does. Penny gets hurt a lot. Julio is old as hell. I think Valdez-Scantling's probably going to be the number 2 on that team behind Smith-Schuster, and could end up being the number 3 if Sky Moore is anything. Plus Swift is probably going to get... I don't like injured teams. Yeah. Especially when you come around that playoff time. It bit you in the ass really hard last year when Aaron Rodgers was a COVID. But, yeah.
I know. It did. I played freaking Taysom Hill as my quarterback, so it was painful. Oh, I also forgot to mention that I have the Jalen Hurts Dallas Goedert stack, which I like for touchdown upside. So
yeah, I do think your team has one of the highest. If it would not surprise me if any of the top 5 teams won the championship, because I think even the ones that I don't like as much are mostly because of injuries. I think there's a pretty clear. I think it's the bottom 2, maybe the bottom 3. And that middle chunk, and then the top 5 are the 3 kind of groups. I think yours it's pretty good.
All right.
That was number 4. Let's see. Number 3, it's a B. I put myself at 3. You put me at 2. It's an average of 2.5. Yahoo gave me a B minus. So tell me what you hated about my stupid ass draft, please.
Well, you have some injury risk, you could say, with
a big one.
The king of injuries in CMC. And then you have, you got Chuba Hubbard as the handcuff for that. But other than CMC and Javonte Williams, your running backs are pretty... Josh Jacobs has Josh McDaniels from the Patriots, so I've been really low on him because they're probably going to do the running back by committee shit that the Patriots always do, which is very frustrating for fantasy. And then your tight ends are not the best.
That's an understatement. My tight ends suck dick.
Pat Freiermuth could surprise, but he did all right in his rookie season. And then Hunter Henry, we know what he is. He's going to get a random touchdown here and there, but that's about it. And then you got Brady, but maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year he falls off.
Gradual decline.
But your receivers, your top 2 receivers are stacked, and then Juju, like you said, is probably going to be wide receiver 1 for Mahomes, so he's got to do well. So,
yeah, there are certain things that I look at this draft and it's there's certain things I know that I value. One is staying healthy. Like Josh Jacobs is he missed 1 to 2 to 3 games every season. But besides CMC, which I literally guilt tripped myself into taking, all these players started at least 15 games last year. And then number 1 wide receivers, which I believe that I'm going to have 4 number 1s on their team between.
Kyle Pitts is number 1 for Falcons. Let's be honest.
I don't know. I'm lower on Kyle Pitts than most people are this season. I made that pretty clear.
Yeah,
because I think they're all going to be focusing him, and I think Drake London is really good.
That's fair.
Plus Smith-Schuster. I think Michael Carter is, with how bad the rookie, what's his name, Breece Hall has looked. I think Michael Carter's going to get a lot of carries, even if Breece Hall starts to look better. I think they're still going to probably use Carter a bit. He was pretty solid last year.
Yeah.
And then, my tight ends suck. That's the big issue.
Yeah, I mean,
I also think there's a high chance I have 2 top 10 quarterbacks. I think they're tight ends, and then the Chuba Hubbard pick is not very good objectively, but it's just a handcuff.
The safety. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the defense, I don't like my defense either. I don't know about that. There's so many good defenses, though. It's like I don't really care.
But they get to play the Bears and the Lions twice, so
that was literally my thought in taking them. I was like, their division is not that good.
And then, I mean, you could have 2 top 5 running backs if they stay healthy, because those 2 guys are like most talented running backs in the league.
Yeah, I mean, they say they're going to use Melvin Gordon a lot.
I just don't know how you can do that when you have Javonte Williams on your team.
And Javonte Williams just looks better every time they run both of them. It's like I'm hoping that. And Nathaniel Hackett did not do a lot of quarterback or running back by committee in Jacksonville. He did in Green Bay, but he mostly did quarterbacks coaching back in Green Bay. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
That was like the one starter. I think Freiermuth's going to have a big year because I think their offensive line is not good, and they have crappy quarterbacks, which means a lot of catches for the guys that go short.
Yep, got to bail out.
That's kind of what Freiermuth is. And he's on the field all the time because he can run block, like all those
That's true.
Iowa kids. All right. Number 2 is Becca. I had Becca as the number 1 team in the league. You had Becca as number 3. I'm going to take this one because I think Becca's team is cracked. I don't see a real hole on the roster. If I figure out how to pull it up, tacos for Latinos. There we go. I mean, like I guess Ramondre Stevenson as the flex would probably be the big one, but I think there's a chance Darnell Mooney goes in there. Early season, I think there's a chance Russell Gage. If Kareem Hunt gets traded, I think he could be in there, especially if it's on the Eagles.
Yeah.
I think that she's got a lot of flex options there. And, like, other than Ramondre Stevenson, her starters, and maybe Leonard Fournette, I guess, her starters are so good.
Yeah. I mean, she gave us her best impression of the salty run back with getting 5 of her players from last year, 3 in the first 3 rounds, so... one of the things I'm not the highest on is I'm not super high on Deontay Johnson just because of the Steelers' offensive line and bad quarterback play, but he is a great receiver, and he had the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger throwing to him last year, and he still got 1,000 yards and like 7 touchdowns, so he will probably be fine. But one of the biggest issues I have is I'm just a lot lower than most people are on Darren Waller. He's been injured like all of training camp, and they just brought in Devontae Adams. I can't speak.
Oh, there you go. I was like, who the hell is Deontay
Adams? They brought in Devontae Adams. They have Hunter Renfrow. They have the new coach, the guy Josh McDaniels, who tries to focus on running like he did with the Patriots. So I'm not super high on Darren Waller, and then her depth. I mean, Garrett Wilson could be fine, but it's another team with a bad quarterback. He's going to be the second receiver at best. But I mean, I'm still obviously very high on her. I had her ranked 3. So
yeah, I mean, a couple things on those points. I think, as bad as Mitch Trubisky is, he's most likely going to be better than Ben Roethlisberger was last year.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I heard Ben Roethlisberger was throwing the ball in like 2.1 seconds of the snap on average. I mean, he's literally like barely touching the ball.
Yeah.
And I think because their offensive line's bad, I think PPR, I think the Johnson's touchdown potential is probably a little down, but I think the receptions could go up. And then with Waller, I think that we just learned last year that Carr has 2 guys that he really trusts in Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. I mean, he had like almost 100 targets in 10 or 11 games. It's insane. I mean, that's almost 150 targets over the course of the season.
He had like 17 targets in the first game of the season.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I think last year I think he had 1 touchdown after week 1 on 80 targets, which is, I guess, concerning, but I think it's also probably a number that's likely to regress towards the mean.
Yeah.
especially when you bring in another target, because Renfro's not really a red zone target, like a traditional red zone target where they draw a lot of attention. So I think bringing guys over towards Adams is probably going to help Waller a little bit in the red zone, even though his receptions may go down.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's a championship favorite, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I'd say one of the two, along with the final team that we're going to talk about, the number one team in our aggregate rankings, Spencer. Wyatt, you had him as the number one team. I had him as number two. Even Yahoo liked his draft. What's going on? That means he's probably fucked.
Yeah, that's probably a bad omen.
So why is he the best team in the league?
I mean, you just look at this roster, and at least in the starting roster, and even on the bench, there's not really a weakness. I mean, you could say the tight end is probably the biggest weakness, just because Zach Ertz, who has also been injured this preseason and is getting older. But other than that, I mean, Pat Mahomes, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Cortland Sutton, Chase Edmonds, who I really liked. Spencer picked him a pick before I was going to pick him, and I was pretty pissed. Robert Woods, wide receiver 1. Darrell Henderson could become running back 1 if Cam Akers gets hurt. There's just a lot to like about this team.
Yeah, I mean, I put him as number 2 primarily because Cortland Sutton, I don't know. Just with him, he tore his ACL I think it was ACL or Achilles 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And last year he just did not look very good. Granted, his quarterbacks were god awful, and then I think Saquon Barkley, you gotta wonder if he's gonna play.
Big injury risk.
Yeah, I mean, but outside of those two, if he stays healthy, I think Spencer is the runaway favorite.
Yeah.
This team is ridiculous.
And as long as Kamara doesn't get suspended, which isn't looking likely, but you never know with all this legal random crap that happens. So
yeah, I mean, it really tight end is like the one question mark. But Ertz looked pretty good when he got to.
Yeah, he played really well in Arizona. Just hope that injury that he's had, I think it's like a hamstring in the preseason or something like that. Hopefully that's done by week 1.
I mean, I think Njoku is probably the only bad player on this team.
I mean, it's another tight end on a bad team, with a bad quarterback, so he could try to bail out to the tight end. And I heard a stat on a different podcast that I listened to that talked about in Jacoby Brissett's starts, his most targeted position is tight end by 15% target share. So he could be good, and they just paid him a big amount of money to keep him, so you never know.
Yeah, it could. I watched Jacoby Brissett play quarterback last year, and they had Mike Gesicki.
Yeah.
It was a lot better than David Njoku.
Yeah.
And it did not look good.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, that man is not a very good quarterback. I think Spencer's likely going to be in the postseason, and if Deshaun Watson looks good coming back, I don't know if Watson ever had a good tight end in Houston.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, there were they would always just draft someone the 5th round and just throw him in there.
Yeah.
And I think which is it's kind of the same with Amari Cooper, where it's these guys could be good. But yeah, I mean, these two teams are
they're
going to be
juggernauts.
Rough. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a pretty good first episode.
You want to run them down one more time from top to bottom?
So at the top we have Spencer, Becca, me, Wyatt, Reeves, Dalton and Bway, Beans and Banegulwud tied, and then Agmills, Biz, Sharksy, and Steele. But as we learned last year, the draft didn't mean that much. I mean, fucking Agmills won, and his draft was atrocious.
It was terrible.
Reeves had a sick draft, and Reeves griefed all season. So you never know. I'm excited to get to do this once a week with my boy, Alec Dub.
We can get some guest stars here and there, maybe.
Oh yeah. If you guys do want to come onto the show, just let us know. We'll have you pop in. It's pretty easy from what I can tell. So we'll be able to do that. That's the nice thing about that's kind of why I didn't really want to do the write-ups this year, is because it felt like a very me project that I want to get the whole squad, all my
Interactive
balls.
experiences.
Yeah, exactly. So that will be it for the inaugural episode of the SimStation Pod. See you next week.